At the start of the story, an elderly man named Harry shares a traumatic event from his childhood. He recalls how his father tragically took the lives of his mother and siblings on Halloween night in 1960, a memory that still haunts him deeply. Impressed by Harry's story, his teacher Jack awards him an A+. Later, Jack attends a dinner hosted by a man named Al, who appears well-groomed and clean-shaven. During the dinner, Jack's wife Alice arrives and hands Jack divorce papers, leading to a tense conversation between them. Meanwhile, Al leaves the room briefly. When Alice departs, Al returns, now looking unwell and sporting a beard, despite having been clean-shaven just days before. Jack notices the change and questions Al's sudden decline in health, but Al avoids the topic. Instead, Al invites Jack back for another dinner the following day. When Jack returns, Al leads him to a closet, explaining that he can't verbally express what he's been through, but needs to show him. Curious, Jack agrees and steps into the closet, finding himself transported to a place where people are dressed in old-fashioned clothing. There, a man in a hat sternly tells Jack he doesn't belong. Shocked and scared, Jack returns to Al, who reveals that the closet is a portal to 1968, meaning Jack has just traveled back in time. Al explains to Jack that during the time he and Alice were discussing their issues, he was in the past for 3 years attempting to complete a mission. However, he was unable to succeed, and now he wants Jack to go back to 1960 to prevent the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. Al believes that saving Kennedy would have significantly altered America's present condition. He shares details from his research, which he gathered by traveling to the past. This research includes comprehensive information about Kennedy's assassination, identifying the people involved in the events that transpired. Al also hands Jack a book detailing sports outcomes over the years, suggesting Jack could use this information to place bets on sports events in the past and fund the mission. Despite the elaborate plan, Jack declines to take part, leaving Al visibly upset and asking Jack to leave his home. Upon returning home, Jack mulls over everything Al told him. The next morning, he decides to visit Al's diner, but finds that Al isn't opening the door. Concerned, Jack enters the diner and discovers Al has passed away. It turns out that Al's extended stays in the past led to him developing cancer, ultimately causing his death. Resolved to complete Al's mission, Jack travels back to the past. Once there, he buys a car and begins betting on sports games using the information from the book Al gave him. His accurate predictions quickly earn him money, but also attract unwanted attention from local bettors who grow suspicious of his uncanny success. To escape any potential danger from these new enemies, Jack moves to Texas and focuses on a man named George, who, according to Al's research, was involved in the Kennedy assassination. Jack stakes out the location where JFK's assassination is supposed to occur. There, he accidentally bumps into a married woman named Sadie. The collision causes them to drop their belongings. Sadie quickly grabs her bag and leaves with her husband, while Jack returns to his hostel. That night, he contemplates calling his father, who is still alive in this timeline. As he considers reaching out, strange occurrences suggest that the past resists being changed. Al's research had warned that altering events wouldn't be straightforward, as the past would actively resist any tampering. The next day, Jack continues to track George and follows him to a stadium where JFK is scheduled to speak. While keeping an eye on George, Jack is noticed by security guards. Thinking quickly, he claims to be a journalist and a big fan of JFK, which helps him avoid further scrutiny and maintain his cover. While shadowing George, Jack discovers him entering a VIP club frequented by prominent politicians and notorious criminals. Inside, Jack learns that George is actually working for the CIA. This revelation complicates his understanding of the assassination plot. After his visit to the club, Jack returns to his hostel only to find it on fire. The blaze has destroyed all his research papers, leaving him without Al's insights for the rest of his mission. Realizing the extent of his isolation and the difficulties ahead, Jack decides it's time to return to his own timeline. As he heads to the time travel portal, he reflects on making a positive impact before leaving. Jack recalls Harry's tragic family history, where Harry's father, Frank, killed his mother and siblings. Determined to prevent this sorrow, Jack visits the military base where Frank is stationed and engages him in conversation, posing as a writer interested in penning a book about him. During their talk, Jack perceives Frank's dangerous nature. With a plan to save Harry's family, Jack goes to their house and offers Harry and his mother tickets to a festival, hoping to get them out of the house and away from Frank. However, Frank intercepts them and misinterprets Jack's gesture as an attempt to woo his wife. In a rage, Frank attacks, attempting to kill both Jack and Harry's mother. A bystander named Bill witnesses the entire confrontation, observing the violence unfold. On Halloween night, armed with a newly acquired gun, Jack prepares to confront Frank and prevent the murder of Harry's family. As he waits outside Harry's house, he encounters Bill, the bartender he had met earlier. Bill reveals that he too is there to kill Frank because Frank had murdered Bill's sister, his first wife. Jack confesses to Bill Bill that he is from the future, specifically there to save Harry's family. As they enter the house together, they find Frank attacking Harry's mother. In a desperate bid to save the family, Jack shoots Frank, ultimately killing him. Relieved yet burdened by his actions, Jack leaves town. He pauses to reflect on what he has done when Bill approaches him again, holding a newspaper article from Jack's research about JFK's assassination, published while JFK was still alive. Bill is confused and demands explanations. Jack and Bill check into a hotel where Jack shares the full scope of his mission, including his original intent to prevent JFK's assassination. Bill, convinced of JFK's importance and goodness, agrees that they should try to stop the assassination together. The next day, they travel to Texas, where JFK is scheduled to appear. They rent a house near the building where JFK will be, positioning themselves strategically to intervene during the assassination attempt. Jack, blending into his surroundings, takes a job as a teacher, educating local children while they prepare for their critical task. In anticipation of Lee's arrival, who is believed to be planning to assassinate JFK, Jack and Bill set up recording devices in the building they are renting. This setup allows them to monitor Lee's activities closely. However, during their surveillance, they discover that the true target is not JFK, but General Walker, a revelation involving their fellow tenant, George. Lee and George meet with General Walker one evening, during which Lee harshly reprimands the general. This interaction confirms their malicious intent, and Jack and Bill now understand the complexities of the political intrigues unfolding around them. Meanwhile, Jack's personal life takes a turn when he meets Sadie, who applies for a librarian position at the school where he teaches. They quickly grow close, and Jack learns that Sadie has left her husband, Johnny. As their relationship develops, Johnny becomes aware of the affair and confronts Jack, refusing to sign divorce papers and threatening him to stay away from Sadie. Despite the threats, Jack chooses not to engage with Johnny, who leaves in frustration. At the same time, Bill finds himself increasingly drawn to Lee's wife, Marina, who is suffering from Lee's abusive behavior. Bill even contemplates taking drastic measures to protect her, but Jack intervenes, calming him down and refocusing on their primary mission. As Jack reflects on the situation, he recalls Al's advice about the significance of Lee's actions. Al had mentioned that if Lee were to shoot at General Walker, it would confirm his willingness to also target JFK. With this information, Jack resolves that if there is any indication Lee might harm General Walker, they must act decisively against Lee to prevent any further assassination attempts, including against JFK. Jack receives a distressing call from Johnny, who claims he has Sadie in his custody and has harmed her. Johnny demands that Jack come immediately if he wants to save her. Before leaving, Jack instructs Bill to keep an eye on Lee's actions regarding General Walker, stressing the urgency of understanding Lee's plans. Upon arriving at Johnny's, Jack finds Sadie badly hurt. Johnny issues a chilling ultimatum. Jack must drink bleach if he wants to save Sadie. As this standoff unfolds, some of Sadie's students arrive, looking to see her. Seizing the opportunity, Jack instructs them to call the police due to the life-threatening situation. After the students leave, in a desperate bid to escape, Sadie and Jack manage to overpower and ultimately kill Johnny. Sadie, injured from the ordeal, is quickly taken to the hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, tensions rise between Lee, Bill, and Marina. Lee observes Bill talking to Marina and confronts him. Bill, trying to avoid further suspicion, claims he was there to meet Lee, not Marina. However, the situation escalates, and Marina, unable to cope with Lee's abusive behavior, decides to stay with a friend named Ruth for safety. That night, Bill positions himself outside General Walker's house, determined to witness if Lee attempts to shoot the general. However, a haunting vision of his deceased sister appears, distracting him at the crucial moment, and he misses seeing whether Lee carried out the assassination attempt. This mysterious occurrence suggests that the past itself is interfering, trying to prevent Bill from altering events. Simultaneously, Lee becomes increasingly paranoid and aggressive. He learns that an officer named Hosty might be visiting Marina at Ruth's house and begins harassing Hosty, warning him to stay away from Marina. Amidst this turmoil, Lee secures a position at a book depository building, the very location from which he plans to assassinate JFK. After explaining his time-traveling origins to Sadie, Jack asks Bill to keep a close watch on Lee and George, since he needs to focus on caring for Sadie's recovery. Meanwhile, Bill's involvement with Lee's wife, Marina, deepens as he begins visiting her regularly, even sharing a kiss, further complicating their already delicate situation. During a party at Lee's house, Lee discovers the hidden recording devices Jack and Bill had installed. He immediately suspects FBI FBI agent Hosty, who has been aggressively questioning Marina. This discovery heightens the tension around their surveillance efforts. When Jack and Bill return to their apartment after the party, Jack confronts Bill about his risky behavior with Marina, warning him that their mission could be jeopardized if he doesn't maintain distance. This confrontation escalates quickly, with Bill reacting in anger, pointing a gun at Jack and threatening to expose their surveillance operations to Lee unless Jack leaves. Feeling cornered, Jack departs to avoid further conflict and returns to the hospital where Sadie is undergoing facial surgery due to injuries inflicted by Johnny. At the hospital, Jack spots the man in the hat he had seen on his initial time travel journey, triggering his suspicion that something is amiss. Concerned for Sadie's safety, he tries to enter the operating room but finds the door locked. In a desperate bid to ensure Sadie's safety, Jack breaks the window with a fire extinguisher, interrupts the surgery, and halts what he perceives as a dangerous situation. His intervention is driven by a growing sense that the past itself is resisting their attempts to change it, exemplified by the confusing events in the operating theater. Jack's quick thinking and decisive action under pressure saves Sadie from a potentially fatal situation, reinforcing his commitment to protecting those he cares about while grappling with the complex dynamics of his mission and the past resistance to change. When Jack and Sadie return home, Jack decides to visit Bill at his old house. There he finds Bill and Lee practicing shooting together, which makes Jack suspect they are planning to assassinate JFK. In an attempt to prevent this, Jack takes Bill to a psychiatric ward, claiming Bill is his mentally unstable brother who believes in things like time travel and leaves him under the care of the doctors there. Jack then confronts George alone to ask why he wants to kill JFK. George clarifies that he has no intention of killing JFK. He was just meeting with Lee and isn't involved in any assassination plans. Later, Jack calls Sadie from a phone booth, telling her he plans to stop Lee that night. However, a man Jack had previously bet with and caused to lose a lot of money finds Jack and beats him severely. Jack wakes up in the hospital with amnesia, unable to remember the details of JFK's planned assassination or even where Lee and Bill are. Sadie tries to help him regain his memory. They go to the psychiatric ward to rescue Bill, but tragically, Bill jumps out of a window and dies after being driven insane by shock treatments he received there. Despite his confusion, Jack considers confronting Lee with the intent to kill him, but changes his mind when he sees Lee's baby nearby. The next day, Jack goes to the FBI to report his concerns to Agent Hosty, but the officers don't take him seriously. Frustrated, Jack writes down his complaint on paper and leaves the FBI office. Jack decides to go to Ruth's place to steal Lee's gun to ensure he can't use it to assassinate JFK. However, when he arrives, the gun, which Lee was supposed to keep there, is missing. Realizing the urgency, Sadie and Jack decide to stay near the assassination site to intercept Lee when the time comes. They park their car nearby and fall asleep. While they are asleep, the mysterious man in the hat, whom Jack has encountered before, appears again. He warns Jack that changing the past isn't as straightforward as he hopes. Any alterations he makes could simply lead to someone else committing the same or a similar act, trapping Jack in an endless loop of time travel. The man reveals that he too is a time traveler who had tried to save his daughter from a tragic drowning. Waking up from this encounter, Jack shares his fears with Sadie, confessing that he's overwhelmed and wants to abandon the mission. However, Sadie reminds him of their commitment to complete the task for their friend Al, who had started this quest. The next day, they wake up and try to start their car, but it won't work. Jack interprets this as the past actively working against their efforts to change it. Realizing that JFK's arrival is imminent and time is running out, Jack and Sadie have no choice but to start running toward the location, hoping to still make a difference despite the escalating challenges. While rushing toward the scene, Jack is haunted by visions of Frank and Bill, both of whom he had killed in his quest to alter the past. Meanwhile, Lee prepares to assassinate President Kennedy from the Texas schoolbook depository. Lee's first shot misses its target. At this crucial moment, Jack and Sadie manage to reach Lee's position. As Lee prepares to fire a second shot at JFK, Jack and Sadie intervene, thwarting the attempt. In the ensuing struggle, Jack fatally shoots Lee, but not before Lee manages to shoot Sadie. Jack tries desperately to save Sadie, but she succumbs to her injuries within seconds. The police arrive soon after and arrest Jack, suspecting him of shooting at JFK and being responsible for the deaths of Lee and Sadie. During his interrogation, Jack explains that he had heard Lee plotting to kill JFK from a nearby shelter and had gone to the book depository to stop him. However, the interrogating officer dismisses Jack's story as implausible. Agent Hosty enters the interrogation room and Jack confronts him, asserting that Hosty was aware of Lee's intentions but did nothing to intervene. Jack also mentions that Lee had filed a complaint against Hosty for harassing his wife Marina, suggesting that the FBI might have ignored signs of Lee's plans. Faced with these accusations, Hosty quickly has the officer leave leave the room. Jack argues that the FBI's negligence and his efforts to prevent the assassination should be considered. Moved by the argument and the complicated circumstances, Hosty decides to release Jack. Just before leaving, Jack receives a phone call from President Kennedy himself, who thanks Jack personally for his actions in saving his life, acknowledging the significant risk and sacrifice involved. After preventing Lee's assassination attempt on JFK, Jack returns to his original timeline using Al's designated time travel portal. Upon his return, he discovers that despite his efforts, the United States is in dire straits. The country has been involved in numerous wars, causing widespread devastation. Upon seeing Jack, Harry immediately recognizes him as the man who saved his family years ago when he was just a child. Overwhelmed by the realization that Jack hasn't aged, Harry half-jokingly asks if Jack is an angel. Curious about the current state of affairs, Jack inquires about the consequences of Kennedy's extended presidency. Harry explains that although JFK survived, his presidency faced significant challenges, including attacks on America that led to its current poor condition. Realizing the unintended consequences of his actions, Jack decides to use the time travel portal once more. Al had warned him that traveling back to the past again would reset the entire timeline. With this in mind, Jack travels back to 1960, determined to set things right. Before making any changes, Jack encounters the man with the hat for one last time. The man advises Jack to let go of Sadie to avoid further complications in the past. Jack heeds this advice, but meets Sadie one final time to say a heartfelt goodbye, knowing it's the best for both of their futures. Returning to the present after resetting the timeline, Jack learns about an elderly Sadie who is about to receive an award from her school. At the evening event, Jack reunites with an aged Sadie. She feels a strange sense of familiarity with Jack, as if they've met before, but Jack chooses to keep their past interactions a secret. They share a poignant dance, giving Jack a sense of closure as he finally steps back from altering history further. This bittersweet ending wraps up the series 11.2.63, leaving viewers to ponder the complexities of time travel and its impact on personal and global histories. Jack's journey through time highlights the unforeseen consequences of tampering with the past and the emotional toll it takes on those who dare to change it. If you enjoyed this series, don't forget to like, comment, and share this video. I'll be back soon with another exciting video. Until then, take care and thanks for watching.